Oh, that's a little close. Let's get back there a little bit. Hey, I'm Ed Parcaut, your host of Real Estate Jerky, the radio show, and this is our live. And we go a little bit more in depth every time. Normally, we're here on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. Had some little issues yesterday, so we moved it to Friday. And thanks for joining us, whoever's here, and Lindy. So, some of you've known Lindy. She was on here a while back with She Built Homes. She had brought that
Mhm.
information to me, and she was asking me some questions because she's a first-time home buyer, her and her
Yeah,
husband. And I said, why don't we just do a live about it? Because I'm sure everybody else is going to have kind of the same questions. And she
for sure.
agreed. So that's why we're here.
Here we are. I'm excited to find out some of these questions. And Matt and I, my husband, we were going through the first homebuyer process in California, but then we moved a month later. So we had kind of started, and the market out here where we live in DC is very different compared to even where we were in California. And so now I'm like, I don't even know if we qualify to be a first time home buyer where we live, with how much rent is. And so I wanted to kind of talk about some of the different options that might even be available to us, because maybe it's not a first home. Maybe it's like a cabin that we can go to on the weekends, or I don't know if that even counts or qualifies or what that even looks like. So I'm excited to kind of dive into some of those a little bit more specific options that it would be available for us.
And that's what I'm here for. I'm just adding on here because a lot of people want to know what is the definition of a first time home buyer, right?
Yeah.
Basically, that means that you've not owned a home in the last 3 years. So as long as that's the definite, and that's how they use it for everything. So I put the capital B. I don't care. First time home buyer not owned in the last. I should change. Let me change that banner in the last 3 years. All right,
Okay.
owned.
So even if you owned a home as an asset prior to 3 years ago,
And then it doesn't count.
it doesn't count.
Yeah, so it's the last 3 years, which to me, so I'm just going to keep it big. First home buyer. We'll just leave it at that. First time home buyer, not
We got
owned in
it.
the last 3 years. Yeah, that's why we have Matt, your husband, on when we do the helping the brave, because he's so much better at it. Because that's what he does all the time, right?
Yeah, he does the back office stuff at the same time as going live. It's definitely a skill that
But
he's acquired.
well, and usually we have these set up way advanced, so I can go in here and put all this information in so that it's there for people. But here you go. First time home buyer, not owned in the last 3 years.
I
So
love it.
so that's the thing for everything that's going to go forward. So that's how it was when you're going. So certain programs, they want to make sure that you haven't owned a home in the last 3 years. All right.
Okay.
So I know I'm getting a lot of questions regarding the first time home buyer, the new thing that the Biden is putting together, the first time home buyer tax credit, that thing that just turned into a bill.
Okay. So
They put it to go, it's going forward to get in as a bill, and it's going to go through Congress and go to all the House and all that good stuff.
is that like a grant or a tax advantage, or is there a difference between the two?
There is a total difference between the grant versus tax credit. All right, so that was your question. Is it this? Is it a grant, right, versus tax
Yeah.
credit? So basically, the grant that they're working on, that $20,000 one or $25,000 for people who have never owned a home generationally, which means that their parents couldn't have owned a home in the last 3 years also. All right, so that one is still in the works. They haven't done anything. You're trying to get that one through, but most people think that's not going to go through the process and get as the grant going forward. But what's going to go forward is the tax credit. All right. So the tax credit is something that they have done before.
Okay.
Basically back in 2008, and there was a $7,500 tax credit, and then in 2009 I think there was an $8,000 tax credit. So the grant would actually give you the money up front to buy your house. Okay.
Okay.
The tax credit gives it to you in a form of a credit towards your taxes. Are you following me here? So you get to write it
Yeah.
off on your taxes. So you have to file on your taxes. the grant was, from what I understand, you had to have lived after you receive it. One of these two, you're going to have to stay in there for 4 years, or you're going to have to pay taxes on it. So
Okay.
there's a lot of requirements of that stuff that's coming that nobody really knows if it's going to come to fruition, but pretty sure there's about a 90% chance the tax credit's going to come through.
And the tax credit, is that a one-time tax credit, or is that a tax credit for as long as I'm in the
No, you
home
get it.
that I purchase?
The tax credit is you get to, so it's $15,000 up to so it's up to 10% of the purchase price, up to a max of $15,000.
Okay.
So the $15,000, you get to write that off on your taxes. That means you get the credit. So if you had to pay $10,000 in taxes, you would get $10,000 back.
Back.
So each, you have to talk to your tax advisor, because it would probably have to push it over a couple of years to get you full of it for some people. But all
Okay.
that stuff's going to get worked out going forward. And that's, that whole thing about, if I was a bill, Schoolhouse Rock, that whole stuff.
Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah. So basically, it's got to go through that process. It's got to be looked at. It's going to get changed. It's going to come back. So it is going to come, and it's going to be there. Is it? A lot of people don't know if it's going to help. I mean, it's going to help a lot of first-time home buyers, but we are in a market where we don't have enough houses already for people to buy. So
that leads me to my next question then, Ed, because I hear how competitive it is out there. And at this point, we're paying a lot more in rent than I ever would have expected. So it's been really hard to save for as big as a down payment as we would want. And I mean, growing up, I was always told you need to have a 20% down payment. And when I started talking to you about this, you're like, no, you don't need a 20%. So kind of what options are available if you don't have a big down payment, or what is the down payment amount, or what amount do you need to save for to even start the process?
Start with one. All right. We'll start with one. All right. Do you need 20% down? No, you don't need 20% down by your first home. Basically, to buy your first home, you need, all right, so it depends on who you are. All right, so I'm going to go a little bit, I know a little bit more. So you guys Matt's a veteran. So you guys can buy up to 1.5 million with no down, right, with the VA loan. Right. However, you got to qualify for that. So the question really is, you have to look at and with VA, it's a debt, and all loans, it's your debt to income ratio. So let me type that in, and which I'll make it short. DTI, right?
So what's the debt to income ratio then that is needed?
So what debt to income ratio means, for every dollar you bring in, and maybe you can do this for me. You can type faster than me. For every dollar you bring in, so much cents goes towards your mortgage, and so much cents goes towards your mortgage and debt. All right. Mm-hmm. So let's say that if you bring in $1, and on VA loans, we can go up to easily 56 cents towards your mortgage and debt. So it's a high debt to income ratio, right? We've done higher, but is that good? Not always. So you have to look at each person's situation. But with you guys, if you have any additional like disability income and certain things you have, we can gross up to get that to where you can get to your next level. Grossing up means you don't pay taxes on it now. So we add that tax on top of it to get to the dollar amount we're talking about. Okay. So Are you following me here?
Yeah. Is there like a number or percentage like that's kind of ideal, or you're in the orange area, and then you're definitely in the red area and you need to pay off some debt?
Well, yes. All right. So sometimes people come and they make good money and they have no debt, and their debt to income ratio is like 20 to 20, so 20 cents. So for their mortgage, they're buying a house. They need 20 cents out of every dollar will go towards their housing. And then the other debt ratio was 29. So every 29 cents goes towards their housing and their other debt. So that's an unusual situation. Most people come to us with VA, FHA, and conventional. They're in the 50. They're in the first one is like 38, and the second one's like 36 to 50%. So when you ask that question, is there a perfect number? Not always. Right. We would prefer everybody to be 36, 38 or whatever. I hear, oh, you getting arrested?
I'm not, but something's going on down there. The joys of living in a city. We hear sirens on the daily.
Yeah, our dog was howling this morning because of this police going by.
Yeah.
Not our house, but somewhere. So,
Right.
I tell people don't focus on the debt to income ratio. That's for us to do, us to see what those numbers are and where we should tell you to work. The biggest thing to do is just pay down any debt you have, right? The biggest thing that hurts anybody is credit card debt. Credit card
Credit
debt's
card
going to
debt.
hurt. Yeah, credit card debt, or we run into it with sometimes people get buy a car for their girlfriend or boyfriend, and now they have two car payments on there, and they're the one buying the house. And that's, sometimes people have two car payments are the same as a house payment, right?
Yeah.
The average $40,000 car payment, right? If you're buying a car, is probably $600 to $800. Well, average, depending on where you live, if you're buying it could be $2,000 for a mortgage payment. And if you have 800 to 1,200 eaten up of your income for car payments, you're not going to be able to afford the house that you really want. So these are all things we have to go through and see what the numbers work out for you. And I know we're going to try to go in depth as much as we can, but it's really hard on a live to hit every little thing there is, right?
Sure. There's a lot of nuances, I guess, that happen as part of the process of getting approved.
So what we do, let's go through that. Let's start with there. What's the first step I would do? So basically, when I talk to a client, we have to get their current where they live, social security number, and then we run the credit. And that tells us what we're working with, because if you look at FICO scores, and everybody says, well, I keep track of my FICO score through one of those bureau processes, right? Where it's whether Fannie Mae, Experian,
Credit
Karma, and those.
Yeah.
And then they say on there, it says I'm 680. Then we run in and it says it's 620, and they don't understand the difference. Well, lenders use a different algorithm than Credit Karma and Experian uses. They use their own algorithm, which is usually different. If you go in their disclosures, they'll say that we use a totally different algorithm than what your lender does, and that's how you could get a different score.
Right.
So their FICO score kind of tells us what we can and can't do for you. What I mean with, if you have a 700 plus FICO score, you can go conventional. You can do a lot of different programs. You can still go VA, but you're in the high part of what the VA people are. Most vets, we have a lower FICO score. We've had things happen to us over time when we move, this kind of stuff. We might make a late payment or something.
Yeah.
So the FICO score is really important. VA and FHA, we can go all the way down to 580 FICO score. Some of it, they say we can go on a 550. But when you do that, it makes the loan very difficult to get done. So when I have a client who has a lower FICO score, I go through their scenario with them, see what they can do. We do a what if and see what they can do to pay off certain things or get rid of certain things to help get their score up. Because if I have someone at 640 versus 700, they're 17 times more likely to go in foreclosure. You follow me here? So interest rates are based off of risk, and so are programs. So the higher the risk, and so a risk would be a low FICO score. That means you're going to have a higher interest rate. So you're better off working on your FICO score to get that up to get a better interest rate, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Am I doing okay here? Because
I think you're doing great.
Well, no, I'm getting at is because I can go off on a tangent for hours about that kind of stuff. But for the most important thing you need to do is look at so if you're thinking, you asked this question a long time ago on one of our things about when should you start talking to somebody about buying a home. The moment you think about it, because the first thing you want to do is see where your scores are and what if we need to do to work on those and get those up and put a plan together. If we don't, then all right. So first we look at the FICO score. Hey, got a 680 FICO score. They're going VA. We're fine. What's the next step? Where's their income at? We look at the income and we see, all right, and we do the ratio. So we say income versus debt. What is that ratio? And that's the debt to income ratio. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, once we can see those numbers, and then that tells us what you can qualify for, because we look at what's the purchase price you can qualify for, right? Because on VA, your purchase price, if you're buying a home for $300,000, your loan amount is $300,000. You follow me? Because you don't put any money down.
The money down.
Right. But if you're buying conventional and you're putting 20% down, if you're buying a house for $600,000, you're going to put $120,000 down. So that would leave you a mortgage of $480,000, and then that's how we factor off of that the interest rate, how long you're going to do it, and then that gives us your principal and interest payment.
Mm-hmm.
Are you following me? I know this is all verbal, but So with that's the case. So these are the steps we go through. So we do all this. It takes about 15 minutes to do all that. And then we can tell you what you can qualify for. The next step is for you to send in the documents to verify what you told us you have. Like, we have this amount of money in our savings account. This is our pay stubs to show this is what we really make for income. This is our W-2s to show that we actually made this income last year, and then we just didn't start this process, just started this job yesterday. Kind of stuff.
So let's throw in a caveat there of something a little bit more specific. So my husband has a job that pays him monthly. We get a pay stub, all the great stuff involved in that, right? So I own my own company, and I get paid on 1099s. Last year, because of COVID, I just did my taxes, and I ended up taking a loss. So what do we need to do for me, or for our situation? How do I prove my income, or how does my income go into the process of a first-time home buyer?
All right. So if you were just your husband, so we go off of what his W-2 income is, what his current pay is, right? Plus, I'm sure he's retired out of the military, so he gets a vet disability, whatever that. One of those days, right? So the income for the disability that he receives for when he got out, right?
Yeah.
The benefit. So we look at that. We add that in. We add what he makes per month. That's his income.
Yes.
Your income is whatever you've shown as your income for yourself. So if you took a loss, if you took $1,000 loss, that's your income. If you took a $25,000 loss, that's your income. And then the question is, if we average your income over the last 2 years, is it still a positive, or is it still a negative, or is it a wash? So sometimes in certain states, like with VA loans, California, so if it's a community property state, we have to hold your debt against your husband because you're married, but we don't have to use your income. Are you following me here?
Towards the process,
because you're not you're a positive person, but in this scenario, you're a negative person, right? Because you're taking away from what his income would be. And that's what a lot of self-employed people don't understand is, well, I brought in $150,000, right? And then, but you wrote off $170,000 worth of stuff, right? Now, if we go back through that, this is a whole self-employment show that could take 2 hours to go through, but basic number is, when we look at what you wrote off as a self-employed individual, Schedule C person, that's many different ways to have a business, LLC, corporation, or self-employed, or sole proprietorship, which you are. And then you put that income on your Schedule C. What we look at, did you add any depreciation? Did you have depreciation? Because we can add that back into your income. Okay. There's a few things we can add back in that says, yes, that is really her income, and we can use that. But if you didn't have any of those things, then say you had a $25,000 loss, say your husband made $100,000. If we use you guys make $75,000.
And so that severely limits what we can qualify for.
Right. If we utilize your income, if we don't. And that's why I tell a lot of people that you got to really be careful being self-employed and showing losses, because that can affect you when you go to buy a property, buy a car, or buy anything, because that's what your income is. But a lot of people have a business and they need to write certain things off.
Right.
So I don't want to be negative here. So let's just say that. So basically what we do is just look at your husband's income, look at your, I assume you guys have the same credit cards, the same everything's joint. So it would have to hit them anyway. So we'd have to adjust those numbers. So I wish I had a whiteboard today. We'll work on that.
Paper.
No, well, I'm just going to write here, and you're not going to see it. But no, my question really is if, just so I can doodle, so I can write down. So say that he makes $100,000 a year, right? I'll just say that as a quick number.
That's a good hypothetical. Yeah.
Okay. So that means so you divide that by 12. Right? So what's that? So I'm going to do one easier than that. Say he makes $120,000 a year. Divide by 12. There's $10,000, right? He makes a month, right?
Right.
50% would mean that $5,000 he has to go towards your mortgage and any credit card debt, car loans, student loans, any of that kind of stuff. The debt that's the number we're working with. Follow me here?
I think so. Okay. So hypothetical, 12,000 or 120,000 a year.
Correct. Divided by 12.
Divided by 12.
Gets you $10,000 a month as income. Let's just use it. These are numbers. So if you make $60,000, you can just divide it in half, and these numbers will work for you too.
Now is this gross or is this
gross?
This net?
No, we always go off of gross numbers. That means what you actually earn. We don't go off after taxes. That's why one of the biggest issues that we run into is when someone tells us their income, they might say, I make this amount of money, right? And then we look at their income and they say, well, I make $3,000 a month. No, you actually make $6,000 a month. After you pay into your 401k, pay taxes on it, you receive a net of $3,000 a month. We go off the gross, not the net. Right.
Okay. Thought I edited that. There we go.
Yeah, you good. So if you take that $12,000, right? I'm sorry, the $10,000 times, we'll just use it. So right now, Fannie and Freddie lets you go up to 50% debt to income ratio max. So we'll just use this as an easy, quick max number. We won't go above that if you're FHA, VA. We'll just use this number right now. So that $10,000 times 50% is $5,000. Now you know why I'm using just easy numbers, because yeah.
So 50% is your 5,000, and that is how much you could qualify for.
That's the max you can have. So that's the money that we have to work with to pay for your car payment, to pay for your mortgage payment, and
so
to pay for the credit card debt.
Or is that separate from your debt to income?
No, this is basically this is the money you have to work with. So the other $5,000 went away, right? The other 50%, because that's your paying your taxes and what we can't use for utilities and other stuff that you should be able to utilize.
Like
so this is the net number we have to work with to see what you can qualify for. This is just an easy way to do it. So if you have a mortgage of $2,500 that we said you can qualify for a month, here's an example, and then you have a car payment for $1,000 a month. Now we're at $3,500. That allows us. So you follow me here. So then if you have credit card payments of up to $300 a month, then if you have, student loans of another $2, so we just ate up that $5,000. This is just easy. This is how we used to have to do it before computers and when calculators. Yeah. Fax machines.
Right. I mean, I'm sure there's like a program that a calculator of sorts that you could put this all into.
Yeah, and I can go to, get one and pull it up when we go through this. But the question really is what do we have to work with to qualify you with? And that's the $5,000 that we have to work with, and that's easy numbers. If you were $60,000 a year, guess what? You'd have $2,500 max that we could work for a house payment. So if you have $2,500 and you're trying to buy a house that is $1,700 and you have a car payment of $800, you barely make it, right?
You barely make it.
Right. So that's why it's very important. If you're going to buy a house, buy the house first, then buy those cars. Right. So with your situation, we could, if you're looking at, I don't know what your income is, but basically an average house of $600,000, right? I just did one today. And on a mortgage of $480,000. Your principal and interest payment is 2,000 and some change, like 2,030
for 400,000.
For 480,000. So right now, if you had on a $600,000 purchase, if you put $120,000 down, your mortgage would be 480 and change at a 3% interest rate. As example, your principal and interest payment would be 2,030, say.
Yeah.
The problem. All right. So we still fit in this $5,000 range, right?
Right.
Well, then we have to add on taxes and insurance. If you have an HOA, all those additional things. So say your payment ended up being $3,000 a month on this, right? The scenario that we're doing, you still have $2,000 left over a month that you can still use towards credit card debt, car payments, and other stuff to work with. It's very difficult to do this without throwing up a program here. So ask me some more questions while I go get
what you need to get. Yeah. So, okay. So in the area that we're living in, I mean, I guess that's something Matt and I need to discuss is like right now where we live, we pay a good amount in rent. It's very convenient. He works 4 miles up the road. A lot of the reason that we made the decision to live where we live is because of access to a metro, easy access to work. He works a lot of hours with his job. And so the discussion came, do we live somewhere a little bit expensive right now so that I actually can like see you at night versus having a 2-hour commute. He has coworkers that have a 2-hour commute that live, only, well, some I think are as far, I don't know if he has any still out in Richmond,
Right.
which is a 2-hour commute without traffic. Because you can ride the train and I think the BME or something is like the train and then it connects to the metro. And,
But that's work from home then, right?
Right. So at that point, like you live that far away and then you have an hour plus commute every day. The cost to us, being young in life, it was more important for us to have our evenings together and not consumed by him traveling, just commuting in and out of work. Plus, we only have one car. So it sucked to be stranded because your spouse has the car. But so when we start looking at homes in the area, because we live in Alexandria, we're right now in Old Town, which is really convenient to like the waterfront, to the metro, to restaurants. We would love to stay in this area, but as I look at Zillow and look at the property prices, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can get a condo of a 600 square foot condo starting at $300,000. If I want to get a home with a backyard for my dogs, so we don't have to do apartment living anymore, what on earth can we qualify for? And is a condo versus the value of like the resale? Because we don't see, we see ourselves being here for 5 years, but we don't know after that, right? So right. I guess kind of what options are available or what options should we think of, because we want to use this purchase as also kind of an investment, right? We don't want to get turned around. We don't want to just jump from property to property and lose money or different things like that. So I guess reviewing some scenarios to use it as to buy a house strategically more so than just the fact of we own a home.
Right. Now, what I'm running into right now is trying to share a screen and kicked me out and said I couldn't share my screen. So Mac. I tell you, I went to Mac, because usually if I had my other computer, I'd have my software up. Remember that program I told you about?
Yeah.
If you go there for me, I'm going to log out real quick. But if you go to, what is this? Affordability calculator.
Okay.
MBS. Yeah. And then you can share it. Then I can tell you, and you can walk through it and see how easy it is.
Okay.
All right, Matt.
There's affordability. Okay. Do I need to log in for this? Because it does let me access it without logging in.
Oh, and then let's just see what you can do. There you go.
Okay. So let's see if it'll let me share. Share screen.
Yeah, I got to go in there and give it permission for me.
Okay.
And we'll thank MBS Highway for the use of their products.
Right. Okay. Application window. Okay, let's see if that worked.
You have the same problem.
Wait, I need permissions. Hold on.
For Google Chrome, huh?
Yep. I gotta go to the privacy. And then screen recording. Oh, and then Chrome.
Is that under Mac?
Yeah.
You have to show me how to do it later.
Oh, okay. Wait. It may not let us work because it's saying something like you have to get permission, but you have to close.
Oh. our thing out.
Our thing out. So let me
Yeah.
try one more time, and then if it doesn't work, we can. Oh, I got it.
There you go. All right.
There
So
we go.
let's use the income. So put in there where it says annual income, right? So what's your let's just say you're 85,000. Let's do it differently because I don't know what you guys make. Let's just, on average, people make 85,000. Interest rate, just put 3%. And then length of loan, 30 years. Down payment, let's put 0. And then and is there a calculate button?
It automatically calculated.
Okay. All right. So basically that's telling you with what you just make, $85,000, a home worth 485,216 is within your budget.
Within your budget.
If you go down to your budget down here, this is where it talks about your debt to income ratio, where I was saying 53%, so if you're over, so you can actually click to the next one and adjust it to what you need. And what's nice about this program is we just did what I was talking about, but easier to show, right?
Right.
Oh, Matt, we'll call him back later.
Sorry.
Yeah. All right. So this is set up at 85,000. So that's pretty inexpensive for that. I don't know. Keep going down for me to see if it has. I'm looking here. I'm going to pull up my own too.
Okay.
I was just trying to see if so it kind of threw that closing cost is a little expensive. We didn't make those changes. That's really on average. So you're doing a VA loan right. You're going to have probably no down payment. Your closing cost is going to be on average, let's just say 2%. So anywhere from 6,500 to 9,500, depending on what type of loan you're doing. Right.
Right.
So the 14,000 shows that's really high, but this is just an example, allows you to this going to make you house poor, right?
Yeah. Right.
Right. So this is pushing the numbers for you.
Right. This is like an absolute max.
Right. And then the question is this work for you guys? Can you find a house for $400,000 in your area that you want to live in? I mean, you guys live in a 600 square foot apartment right now. So if you can find a 600 square foot house with 1 bedroom, 1 bath, you could make it work.
So yeah, right. I mean, we could definitely make it work. I really need a doggy door, so I don't have to do any more like midnight dog walks, so that there's no accidents in the apartment. Right. But yeah.
But here's the other problem, right? So this doesn't really put, so that's your total payment. So that your taxes on there is $417, see right there, and your homeowner's insurance is $883. So that's an average place. However, now say this is what you're trying to buy and it's a condo. Now you have to add another $350 a month for HOA or a HOA in there. That's going to take down your total payment, right? So you won't be able to afford the $400,000 house that we were just talking for. You might be doing you follow me with this 485 right here. So that would probably go down to could go to 4.25 because you're buying a condo and now you have the HOA that's in the way. So for me, I tell most people, go try to find a single family home and forget the condos and the townhouses if you can, but not always that's the case. So
and they're not always available for sure.
Right.
Especially within this budget range. So
all right, so go back to your other one. So up at 85,000, let's say that you make $100,000 a year, right?
Yeah.
All right, so let's do 100.
And again, this is our gross income.
Correct. And so 3% interest rate, length of loan, same. We're doing a VA, no down payment. So that it's telling you could actually, if you make $100,000 a year, you can afford. See that payment right there, though?
Yeah, that payment is high.
Yeah, but what's the average? But you have to look at, yes, it is. But I know places that, when they rent, they're paying this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, and someone looking for a $600,000 house understands that your payment's going to be, so principal and interest payments, $2,800, and you got the taxes didn't really move. So there's got to be an issue with that system there.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean,
because this is the simple calculator, right? Your basics.
Right. But it should be adjusted. There should be a way to adjust those taxes. Because your taxes depend. Well, and it also depends. We're doing a generalization because in California, your taxes are 1.25. In Texas, your taxes are 3%.
Yeah. Okay. So here's where we can adjust property tax per year.
Right.
But it's not a percent. mortgage. So you have to know what your property tax is
in
for
your
where
state
you
is, right? So on 600,000, 1.25 of six. So that, what was that purchase price? Six what?
672
Right. So
and $3.
672 times 0.0125 by 12 gets you 700 a month. So that's off there. It should be, it'll be taxes are go up, not down. So that was, I'm sorry. So times 12, that's 84 a year.
8,400.
Yes. Yes.
So property taxes would be more right there.
And so if you go back up, it dropped. See, the home worth went down from what you were to 597. So these are all things. So what we're doing real quick here is exactly what I do, but I do it through a system that goes the other way. This is just a quick, but you could also click on that over the next one down where it says budget range, right? And you could push it at 40. Click the 43.
Oh, it's not like it.
Okay, so that was probably above. No, I think it's from above where you adjust the thing above. And that's the difference of having somebody else do it instead of me. No, up further where you're showing all the taxes. Oh, look at that. See, over your budget.
Then that's when you're over your budget. It goes bright red.
But this is something anybody could do to play with your numbers and see where you want. See a DTI tolerance over there, 43. Make that 50. Rate and take that bar to 50. Right there. Okay. Now that just see.
I mean, my heart just like stopped. I can't afford 700,000.
No, exactly. And it doesn't. So here's the thing is, it's not what we can get you to afford. It's what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Are you following me? So that's the whole thing. It's not how much because what I can qualify you for is not what usually you want to have in a payment.
Yeah. Well, because we're young, we like to travel. We like to have money to travel. We don't want our money tied up, all of our money tied up in a house, right? So I feel like if you do that situation where you go into the biggest house that you can, or the biggest mortgage that you can qualify for, then it severely limits what you're able to do, and you're just house poor all the time, and could potentially be depressed because you can't do anything because you got to pay down your mortgage.
That's correct. And that, again, so let's go back to so we went through, a big process, but let's break it down for yourself. So you guys have to figure out your plan. Where's your plan for the next, where are you going to be in 4 years from now? Where are you going to be in 5 years from now? You need to find out that's the issue, right?
Yeah.
Did you buy a house if you're only going to be there 1 year?
Yeah. And
that would be because in a normal appreciation market, probably not.
Yeah.
Right. In this
Should
market,
we get a year and a half ago, we'd probably be sitting pretty nicely right now with the increase of property values over just the last year alone.
But you also have to look at, is that where you are in your life, right? I'm really huge about everybody owning a home and building personal wealth for going forward for themselves. And you have to really look at where you're at in your life to see if you're ready for that. If you're ready to buy where you're at, if you're going to be somewhere for 4 years, buy. In 4 year period of time, you should appreciate enough to where you're going to make money and sell, and then keep building to the next place you go to, or you keep it as a rental from where you're at and go buy somewhere else. So the question you had is, all right, where you live right now, you know what the houses around you are going to cost you per month, right?
Yeah.
So you're saying, okay, now I know why Matt's people that he works with commute 2 hours or commute an hour, because they can get a $400,000 or $500,000 house and save $1,000 a month on a payment.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so then it comes down to, okay, well, what if we looked at buying a property that we use as like a weekend getaway, and maybe it's like a cabin 2 hours away, maybe or something like that, so that we can still have our apartment in the city, but then have somewhere to go on the weekends that is ours and that we own. And, it's a lot cheaper. And if we did need to get out of it, it would be a little bit easier potentially than, a big $700,000 loan.
Right. So let's go with this. So I kicked us out of sharing that thing, but you can take us back. But what's a 200,000? You know, where you were thinking about buying this second home, right?
Yeah. Well,
What's
so
that?
is that what it would be then? Is that what it would end up being? Oh, wait, wrong button. There we go.
Yeah.
So would it be
Yeah.
considered a second home?
Yeah. So where you live all the time is your first, whether that's what you own or whether you rent. Okay. If you go
Okay.
to someplace else 50 miles away to buy another house, and that's where you visit on weekends and holidays and, you know, many weeks out of the year, that could be considered your second home. The deal with the second home, it's 10% down.
Okay.
All
So
right.
if we, maybe I need to be in the advanced calculator for this. I don't know.
That's all right. So this is not necessarily all right. So all I want is we're down payment. All right, so we'll figure this out. But basically, if we're going to do 200,000, so your down payment's going to be 10%, which is $20,000.
20,000. Okay.
So if you change that to 20,000,
Yep.
is it there? All right. So
The down
adjust.
payment.
All right, adjust this home worth down to 200,000. Right there. All right. So that's gonna. All right. So now we have to go back up and adjust the taxes, right? So do you know what your tax rate in your area would be? No. Right.
No idea.
So
Never even thought about it.
Right. And I can figure that out. I just right now, for example, we'll use where I am. So again, on 200,000 times 0.0125 divided by 12 is 200 and just rounded up $209. Oh, you want year, huh? Times 8. So put 2,500 a year for property taxes.
Okay.
There you go. Homeowner insurance probably the same. Your DTI, we have 43. All right. So the difference now is, all right, see, this is where it says monthly. We'll go back up there.
Monthly obligations.
Yeah. So all right. So what is your current house rent? So now we're going to have to use your apartment against you.
Yeah.
Got to use your car payment against you and any other debt.
Some quick mental math. Probably, I think we're about right in there.
All right. So here's your problem. See your problem?
I see my problem. I can't afford anything.
Right. So
right.
Right. So because your guys' rent, I'm sure, is ridiculous.
Yes.
Right. In 2000 or something.
It's $22.52 a month.
Right. So that's the problem when you run into this, where you want to buy that other house somewhere else, and you need to qualify for both places. The only other way to do this would be if you bought it as a rental, you would have to put 20 or 25% down, and then you could use it as a rental. And then we could say you're going to get rented, and we'll get an appraisal that shows what the rents will be in that area. Then we can use that rent towards 75% of that rent towards what your mortgage payment would be for that. And then you would be able to afford more.
Just a little bit.
You're adjusting that debt to ratio to 50. Make it 50.
Right here, the down payment?
No, your debt to income ratio, make it to 50. Okay. That's the max. So it gets
yeah. So that's with a 20% down payment if we were to use it as a rental.
Well, but the difference is I would only have to, your monthly obligation would go way down because I wouldn't have to hit you for the full payment. We'd have to hit you for 75% of it. So put that back to 20. I'm trying to play with your numbers here. So now you can afford a $205,000 home with a DTI of 50%. Are you following me here? So that's why you asked, what numbers do we use? We use the max we can when we qualify you.
Is the VA, we can go up to 50%? Is that why that is different, or what is
about the debt to income ratio? No, the 50% debt to income ratio is what we can max on Fannie, Freddie right now.
Right.
USDA is different. We haven't got into that program. And we're already at 40 some minutes. So when we look at that, so the reason I use that is pretty much what we've been using for the last few years for Fannie and Freddie. They might be going to 45 and making it depending on your FICO score, but that's the max. VA can go up to 63, right? FHA can go up to 56 point something. So but when you're buying the second home, it has to be conventional. It's not going to be FHA. It's not going to be USDA. It's not going to be VA. It's going to be it's a different product. The
Uh,
VA is for your home. FHA is for your home that you live in. USDA is
for
for
your
your home that you're
primary
going to. Yeah,
residence.
correct. Correct.
Right. Interesting.
Is it?
Well, I have a little bit more excitement in understanding the numbers. It's not completely impossible. Definitely got to save a lot of money and work on that.
And the problem is, all right, so you guys have to look at so here's the thing about your life. What's your plan for your life? All right.
Yeah.
Is it okay for Matt to commute for a year? Is it okay for Matt to commute for 2 years? What is the plan going forward? Where are we moving down the road? That's what we were originally talking about. You buying maybe in Utah as a rental and have it there for you. And then when you guys are done here, you move there and that is now your primary residence. Utah.
Sorry, Utah family, we're not coming back.
No, but just as example, right? Yeah.
That's excellent because we've thought about that, like looking at maybe potential income opportunities, right? If we bought a rental property in somewhere that's a little more affordable, that maybe 2 hours away, maybe in a whole nother state. Is that even a good strategy? Is that a complicated strategy? But to start earning some, either to start getting some assets that appreciate but also earn maybe some potential rental income as well.
Well, when you buy rental income, it's all about the rent income, not the appreciation.
Okay.
All right. You can't go into buying rental income with we're going to do this for the appreciation. You're doing it for that. What you get for rents cover your payment.
Oh, okay.
Right? Yeah. That's the whole, you want to do that going forward so that eventually as they do appreciate and rents go up, you start making income off of the rents you received and the offsets, because it's versus servicing the debt of it. So it's an over time thing. It's not something fast. But the question, that's why it's about, let's see here, a rental house in DC where you live versus a rental house in, I don't know, someplace in Tennessee, right? You can get it for $60,000, buy the house for $60,000, and you rent it and you get $600 a month. That's a good rent, but the rents aren't going to go up much, right? So you're not going to. So what's the long-term plan for what you're doing? You just need to know what that is. I helped a client, get out of a short sale years ago, but they bought another house, had a short sale, went through the whole downturn, right? But ended up coming out on the other side with a house and another house, and their whole goal was to move somewhere that they wanted to move to forever, and it was by the coast, and it was, I'll just say it's in San Clemente. And they ended up buying a duplex, a block from the beach, with these two houses that they sold for their down payment. And they used FHA to do it because it was their primary and one. That's a whole different thing about, you can buy a duplex, live in one side and rent out the other side. And that's basically what they did, is they bought this duplex, block from the beach. It was my largest FHA loan at the time I ever done. It was $850,000. Basically, they got in there, and that's been, I don't know, 7-8 years ago. And since they purchased that place has went up almost like $1 million because it's a block from the beach. Yeah. What I'm getting about is appreciation versus, right, they live in there. So and the other side, they rent out Airbnb, the whole 9 yards, make enough money to cover the mortgage. But their whole plan was just to set themselves up so they can move to where they want to move to. And that's what they did. And that's the story I'm trying to get here is, if you're going to get into real estate and you're going to, you buy stuff, what's the plan? Where are you going with this? Are you going to buy these different things so that eventually you can help yourself buy that home you want to when you get there? Or are you trying to buy a place? Because I had another friend just call me going, hey, I want to pay off my house with this money we're getting out of this thing. And I'm like, where are you retiring to in 5 years from now? Somewhere else. I go, why aren't you taking that money and buying that place over there? And then that way you have 4 years of appreciation before you get there. And when your house here in California still appreciates, whether you pay off the loan or not, you pay this off, you now have that other place that, California can't tax because it's already was there. And then you pay off your mortgage when you move there and you have money left over, instead of selling out here in 5 years and then buying at a higher price place 5 years from now. Are you
Right.
following me there? So
Yeah.
it's all about finding out what your plan is. I can't help you anyway at all unless I know what your plan is. And you're going to say, well, we don't know. That's okay. We'll work on that. That's what we need to do. But
Yeah.
I can't forget somebody who asked me some questions before we got on, right? So
Yeah.
someone threw Ozzy asked, what are the advantages or disadvantages for first-time home buyers when dealing with a fixer-upper home? Well, my first disadvantage is the fact that you're doing a fixer-upper home. Advantages, sometimes you can get in a lot cheaper for the house because this work that needs to be done, but you have to then get a loan, which is called a renovation loan, to purchase it with, depending on what needs to be done and how much that is. And that could be another whole show about reno loans. But basically what I would say is you have to look at if it's going to make sense to buy this house with this work that needs to be done and what you can do yourself, or if you have to have it done through the whole thing. If you're trying to buy a house that has no cabinets, no bathrooms, no kitchens, whatever, that is not one you can do with a regular loan. You have to get a renovation loan for that because you won't be able to close on that, or you have to pay cash.
Okay.
The other question he had was help new owners with the repairs and bringing property up to code. Again, that would be a renovation loan, the same type of loan. So if you get into the house, you bought the house from the owner. And what I would say is one of these programs, and I think I know this is one he might know, a lot of people sometimes know the owner of the house that wants to get rid of it. It's been around forever. And they're like, hey, we want to sell it to you, but it needs all this work. Work out a deal where you buy it from them. You give them a certain amount of down payment. They carry the note for the first year or whatever while you do all the repairs. And then we come in and refinance them off and pay them off at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of ways you can do it. It's just, again, what's the plan? What's the end goal? I need to see where the end goal is so I can set this up so that you can get to that end goal.
Yeah. Okay. So essentially what I'm taking away from like this whole conversation, right, is to start the conversation now with your expertise. You can give us options to get us where we want to go. And you look at things completely different from the way that we would look at them. Because I'm sure we're a little bit more emotional as being the buyer side and our money and how it's working towards us, working for us, right? Versus, but we don't see all the options that are available. And, maybe there's some sacrifices on our side that we need to make for a year or two before we can get to where we want to go, right?
Right. And I think you're doing that because you're living in a 600 square foot apartment. There's a lot of sacrifices you guys are making right now for Matt and his job. And for people who don't know, I know Lindy and her husband pretty well. And I appreciate the fact that they came to me and asked me questions about that. Cause you don't know if someone's going to come to you and ask you these questions because sometimes people don't want to feel intimidated or they don't want to be judged or whatever. I mean, there's no judgment. I'm a true no judgment zone because if it's happened to you, it's happened to me.
Yeah.
And many other things I can't talk about on air.
Right.
So the bottom line would be, yes, the plan. The moment you thought about it, and that was a question you had a few shows ago, when should I start thinking? The moment you think you should start thinking is the moment you need to call me and let me run the numbers, see what we're looking at, to see if we have a credit issue that we need to deal with. Since the pandemic, credit is the most important thing when you're trying to do anything right now. FICO score, having the highest FICO score you can get. It gets you the best interest rate. It gets you the best everything. That's the most important. If you can't get there prior to the pandemic, I was doing VA loans at 620, 600, no problem, no issues. Since then, you can still get it done. It's just a lot harder. You got to jump through a lot of hoops, and a lot of places, because of how busy they were, just didn't want that loan, and they're worried about it going, with the forbearance issue. And I know you had a question the other day about what is forbearance, and we never got to it.
Yeah.
Forbearance was during the pandemic where they actually said you didn't have to make your payment. And they put you in forbearance because of that. And then after so many months, they were going to do some type of program to get you back on your feet. The thing was, and a lot of people thought we're going to have a lot of foreclosures from this. Only 30% of the people in forbearance didn't make their payment during that period of time. And so and with the appreciation that they've had, even this last year with 15%, mostly across, at least 12% across the nation on average, most people can sell their home for more than what their mortgage is and get out of it that way in case they were behind. So you're not going to see that as a foreclosure. So we're
Right.
not going to see that, and we're going to see the appreciation just keep going and going and
Mhm.
going.
Okay. Well, and I mean, it's so interesting because I mean, there's so many more questions that I have that we'll save for maybe another episode. But I mean, because even just interest rates, like, sparked a whole bunch of questions, just even mentioning those because, I know there's some there, you want to be concerned about your interest rate. But I mean, I still think about my parents telling me the first time they bought their home, their interest rate was 18%. And so, it's interest rates, how it really affects the bottom line. Is it the most important rate, or is it the most important number to worry about? Or, is it all contingent on what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve?
Yes.
All that.
No, what I mean is, yes, it's about all of that. But the most important thing is what you just said. What are your goals and what are you trying to achieve? That's the most important thing, because I have people who are self-employed. They don't show enough income, right? They write everything off and then they show a certain dollar amount, but truly they make a lot of money. But because of the way the tax code is, and I'm not talking about because, the 1%ers and all, I'm just talking in general because but there is a program called a bank statement loan where we go off of the deposits you do into your business account, and we take a certain percentage of that and we can use that as your income.
Mm,
Right. Well, that's going to
okay.
have a higher interest rate than if I was doing a Fannie Mae loan at a 3%. This is going to have probably a 4.75% interest rate, which right now I'm hearing a bunch of saying, "Oh my God, what? That's so loud. That's so high. That's horrible." And for me, I was bringing people from 13 to 9 when I got in this business, and they love me. Now, when I say 3%, everybody's like, "Oh gosh, why is the rate so high?" Right.
Yeah.
And it's true. We've had historically low rates and we've been spoiled by them, and we have to be very careful going forward. And I brought this up on the show on Tuesday and the guy I had on, Tom Bryant, was saying, so what you're telling me is no other time in history have people have a really low interest rate, a lot of equity in their home, and they're in a position where they can do whatever they want because of how protected and secure they are. I'm like, exactly. So a lot of people are not going to move out of their homes going forward, because why would they want to increase their debt load and increase other things? So we need more homes across the country. So whatever they can do to build more homes, we need them. I wish I had my chart today, but basically we have not built enough homes. We built the same as in the 1930s. That's not enough. We need so many more homes, and that's the
Wow.
problem we have, is getting those homes. So I think over the next 10 years is we're going to see an increase of homes being built, different types of homes of different things to get caught up. And that's
Yeah.
how long it's going to take. So you're going to see for the next 4 to 5 years, the appreciation just going to probably continue to go up. Don't know.
Crazy.
Yep.
Crazy. Well, it's been a great conversation, for sure.
Unshare your screen.
Are we still sharing?
I can see it. Just thought I'd let you know.
I did not know we were stop share. There we go.
Yeah, I can see it. Nobody else can see it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just thought I'd let you know.
Just let me know. Yeah.
All right. I hope I answered your questions. I know I went off a few tangents and didn't have exactly the perfect, things to show on screen. This is a little different than doing the video and then going back in and adding the stuff too. It's trying to make sure that we get it all. I want to appreciate, the MBS Highway that I'm part of that allows us to use their products, because that one was actually an easy one to see, where you played with the numbers, what you could get and what you couldn't get.
Absolutely. Well, and I appreciate it because we have all these questions, right? And I've tried to do my own research, but you never quite get your answer.
No.
Like you never quite get it answered when you do your own research.
Don't Google it. Just
Yeah.
call me. just message me through Facebook, even if you're someplace that I cannot service, because I don't do loans everywhere, but I will help you find somebody who looks at things just as close as way I do, which is a little different than most people.
Yeah. Well, I love it. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for answering these questions. And I'm excited to kind of make some plans, figure some things out.
Well, I appreciate you asking me and coming on, because, not a lot of people want to share their personal life online. All right.
Well, see, and that's the beauty of it. We used hypotheticals.
Yeah. All right. All right. And again, we'll be here. Don't forget, the radio show goes on Saturday at 12 noon on 1360 KFIV. You can always go to iHeart.com and their little app, and you can listen to the show Real Estate Jerky. Otherwise, we'll see you guys on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.